We are meeting virtually with Tom Szaky, the CEO and founder of Terracycle and Loop. Terracycle is a social enterprise whose mission is to eliminate the very idea of waste. Offering a range of national, easy-to-use recycling platforms allows everyone to recycle pretty much anything.
Our goal at Terracycle is to try to avoid waste ending up in our landfills, incinerators, or even our oceans. And what we do here is we construct national programs where people can collect waste streams that have no recycling solution on them today, everything from cigarette butts to latex gloves to chewing gum and all sorts of different things, collect them and then process them in a circular way so the materials go around again. We recycle everything people thought couldn't be recyclable, things like cigarette butts, chewing gum, dirty diapers, even femcare waste, I mean, you name it.
So this is a finished shipping pallet that is made from our recycled cigarette waste.
Plastic is made from 30% used chewing gum. Terracycle's taking dirty diapers and melting them into park benches.
We've created the world's first recyclable shampoo bottle made with beach plastic.
We typically donate a small donation of about 2 cents per piece of waste you collect to your account, and we pay a few $1 million out every year in these form of donations.
By showing companies that they can win by investing dollars in social good and purposeful activities, they will do more of those things.
Thanks for joining me again. I really appreciate your time. So I have to ask this. Those who follow me know that, in fact, this book, Conscious Capitalism, is one of our required readings at Lovesac. You have to have read it.
I'm a huge fan of the book and the overall concept. You know, whatever synonym you want to use, conscious capitalism, purposeful capitalism, eco-capitalism, lots of synonyms to this, but it's about purpose and capitalism together. It's actually incredibly good business as well. You don't sacrifice profit for purpose. You actually get more profit if you're purposeful.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and the data proves that what you just said is true. Unfortunately, business somehow brings out the worst in individuals. You know, I think I agree with you that business is the number one force in the world to elevate mankind, drive people out of poverty, provide opportunity, by the way, pay taxes and pay it back into the system if done right. But unfortunately, there are too many individuals that are bad actors. But there are those like you who are doing it right, in my opinion, that can both make a fortune for yourself and for others, investors, employees, but also, to your point, do it with purpose and do it because of purpose, right? Purpose drives the success.
No, I'm with you. And I think, too, as, you know, designers listen to this conversation, especially, you know, there's multiple ways to affect design. I think, you know, you've done a really interesting job at that, and we're trying to push it as well, which is, one is the physical object, right? The other is even the model of how it's delivered. Well, one is, can the physical object transform? But the other could be the business model behind it. So you can also, there's many places to play. And I think what's really neat in this day and age is the ability to also design business model, partly because the world is open to it in a way that it hasn't been before. You know, I think consumers, especially in the United States, are very open to experimenting with new business models and playing with them. And that can also enable how objects move around and the effect on them. Because I think as individuals, we're not great actors. Individual consumers are sort of horrible people. You know, they tend to focus on, and I'm included, you know, on things that benefit just our ego, right? So good prices, good performance, and filled with features. Now, a feature could be sustainability, but it's not a topic in and of itself. And I mean, if you think about like the organic food movement, right? It's grown. But if you look at the number one reason people buy organic food, it's about what they perceive will be the effect on their personal health. It's not for the butterflies and the bees and saving nature. That is what it should be for. But it's about, I will be a healthier person by eating organic food versus GMO or chemical-laden food. And it's all about me, me, me. And that's unfortunate. I really wish people were more benevolent in their general thinking and their purchase decisions. But if we accept that, it also allows us to design into, you know, what people will be open to. And this is one, I think, the issues with the sustainability movement overall. I don't want to use the word elitist, but it's too aspirational. You know, we read about it and we are like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome to live in a tiny home? Wouldn't it be awesome to shop in a package-free supermarket? Wouldn't it be awesome? And then we don't execute, you know, and that's not okay.
This just launched a month ago, diaper recycling in Amsterdam, and it's now spreading around the world. And to give you a sense of what makes this go around, beyond, okay, it's cool, we recycle diapers and all that jazz, is that the way this type of platform works is, you know, you get an app by Pampers where you can find all these diaper recycling bins across Amsterdam. You click the one you want to visit, gives you a barcode, you present it to the bin, it opens, lets the bin open, you put your dirty diapers inside, and then it weighs them and it gives you coupons or discounts into Pampers. And that the business model is, how do people switch from the competitive brand to Pampers, but it's done through the mode of diaper recycling. And when you can unlock that, that's what creates major scale. Because if you just went to the company and said, hey, take responsibility for being 3% of our landfills and being a big waste problem, it wouldn't go that far. It's really important to always frame into the stakeholder that you're working with, especially if you're trying to push purposeful or social missions.
This is at the crux of what I believe. I'm not a socialist, I'm a capitalist. Like, I believe in conscious capitalism, I believe in sustainable capitalism, but at its core, it's capitalism. So I love how you started the conversation, right? Born in a country did not have access to capitalism originally. And so I think, you have a perspective in your bones that recognizes the inherent power of tapping in, I'll say it really crassly, tapping into human greed. Like, recognize it, accept it, and then exploit it to the good. And so what I mean by that is, I don't care if people buy Sactionals because they want to be sustainable or whatever. I just care that they buy Sactionals.
Yeah.
And by doing that, not only do I know their life will be better in these ways, they've clearly bought into it for some reason. But more importantly, they won't put 4 couches in the landfill, at least we estimate, for each one that we sell. Okay, so that's good for the world, whether they knew it or not, whether they were benevolent or not, they probably weren't. And so now I'm leveraging their personal gain. And meanwhile, I get to be a capitalist. I get to generate wealth. Hopefully for myself, hopefully for all my team members, hopefully for all the people we get to employ, because I can trust myself as the leader of this company to act responsibly. Then hopefully lots of people can benefit. And that's the sad part. And so this is where it comes back full circle, is that, to your point, when the leader of an organization is a bad actor, and it may not be breaking the law or even doing something immoral, but at the end of the day, doesn't make conscious decisions, we end up with a world like we have today, where there's just too much bad acting going on, and capitalism is given a rotten name.
I think that's so important what you say, is there has to be a compass. What's so interesting about business schools is usually ethics classes would be mandatory, but I think the law and breaking ethics, it's the fucking bottom. The question, I think, as we said, earlier, is capitalism is the most powerful tool for change. The question is the change good or is the change bad? It can lift people out of poverty and do amazing things, but it can also destroy communities, lives, and so on. Yeah. And the problem is the idea of the moral compass. It's a very famous example. A big tactic in the pharmaceutical industry, right, is, a company comes out, spends a huge amount of money on R&D, invents a drug that saves people's lives, super purposeful, charges the right amount of money to recover their R&D costs and make money for their shareholders. That's perfect capitalism. But then some other pharmaceutical company comes in, buys them.
Yeah.
And all they do is add a zero to the price of the drug, because now they have 20,000 people whose lives depend on that drug. They have no choice but to buy it.
They haven't broken a law.
Oh, it's totally legal. This is the problem, but it is wildly unpurposeful, right? Because they're not adding any net new value.
Not if you're a shareholder.
Oh no, totally. But to the people they're serving, which one stakeholder is the shareholder, it's good. But to the people that drug exists for, to help their lives, they're being unreasonable. And I think that's the challenge of the compass. The law doesn't protect for morality.
Think how much then onus is on people. And when I say people, I mean people like you and I.
Yeah.
And the hundreds of thousands other leaders of meaningfully sized organizations.
So what do you do, right? I think one is really show just how powerful and successful just serving greed you can be by doing good versus doing harm. And I think there's a lot in there. That's what I'm loving now in business schools. They're teaching sustainability is becoming a mandatory requirement. That's a wonderful thing. That's way higher level than ethics as a mandatory course. That's one. Employees can keep companies accountable. Consumers can keep companies more accountable more than they ever have before. I'm sure you guys must do tremendous amount of listening to your social media and consumer reviews. More than companies ever used to do 10, 20 years ago. And those voices really deeply matter because they move decisions incredibly quick because there's so much choice we can access, right? If we lived in a world before e-com, I would only buy my furniture from whatever furniture store was in my town. And that was it. But today, I can buy a couch from anybody, anywhere. Reputation, purpose, what people say counts more than it ever did before because the economy is so much more fluid and companies can go way faster.
As I look at my own competitors, these are businesses, right, that produce couches that look just like mine, priced very similar to mine. As I look at hashtag Pottery Barn Crate and Barrel on Instagram, these are not their photos, these are consumer photos. I'm blown away, in fact, in awe at what they do better than me. Their design is beautiful, rugs, lamps, accessories, season after season. I can't keep up with that. But what's missing from these photos? Humans, it's weird, right? And when I do see them, they're there. They're really beautiful humans. They're great looking, right? My own children aren't dressed that well on a day-to-day basis. But it's cool to see their brands reflected back to them. So then I contrast that from screenshots of the exact same day, the same moment, the first 6 photos on #Lovesac on Instagram. And this is what I saw. The next page down, this is what I saw. And it's categorically different. It is categorically different, the results that come from living with a Design for Life product where you just don't have to worry about anything, because that is total comfort.
For me, it comes back to winning. If you can win, even if there are 100 other waste management companies that do it the old way, but you can win so outsizedly that they have no choice but to mimic some of your tactics.
Yeah.
Now you've moved the needle. See, that's my goal, right? Is to sell so many couches, but to do so well that I don't have to preach it. They have to copy me. They have to study my business model.
Yeah.
They have to adopt my practices, or I've outdated them.
You nailed it, right? It's by making the model better. And I think this is the beautiful thing about purposeful capitalism. It has the chance to do that. It's not set up to fail. It's actually set up to win. And there's more examples coming all the time. And you're right. I had a big question when I was starting Terracycle. Should I start as a nonprofit or as a for-profit? I had this huge debate about it. I landed on for-profit it's the key reason that you mentioned, which is if I can make it on a for-profit and make it big and meaningful in all the ways just the selfish part of entrepreneurship gets fulfilled, which is money, fame, power, those things, right? Very sort of selfish things. If I can win on those, then people will follow, right? And they will emulate, and there'll be an ecosystem that gets created. But if I only succeed as an NGO, then I'm not going to have the same follow. And in fact, it's a funny thing is we ended up opening the Terracycle Foundation a year ago now. It operates in India and Thailand. So I have the chance of understanding what it's like to run our model through a foundation. We're doing it in markets where the for-profit engine doesn't quite work the same. So in emerging regions. And oh my God, to any entrepreneur who debates between NGO and for-profit, no matter what you do for-profit all the time. Accessing capital, it's such a bitch, through an NGO model relative to a for-profit model. Governance, and, for example, on the for-profit, I can control every one of my entities in 20 countries. In the non-profit, I have an independent board of directors in Terracycle's Thailand Foundation or our India Foundation who actually are in control. My only control is influence. That's not really control, And it's not about being selfish about control. It's about sharing best practices and, making tough decisions and those things. That's really where control manifests. And so it's so important to be able to do it in the context of, can it be profitable? But profit isn't the point, right? Profit is like an indicator of health.
So here's the cool thing about what you're saying, right? Is that essentially, if we play our business models out and we are successful and we do move the needle in that way, the downfall of capitalism as we know it will be capitalism done in a conscious manner.
Yes.
It will eat the bad because the good will be too successful to deny. I agree with you. And that's the outcome of Design for Life, at least in the product realm, right? I live in the product realm, and frankly, so do you. You're just on the other end of it.
Yes, right.
You and I are sort of inexorably linked. I think approach to sustainability in products has been too obvious for too long. Make it green, use organic. And not that those things are bad.
No.
It's just that I believe that it's more than even just that, right?
Well, those are very incremental ideas, right? I think what's really exciting now is there's the opportunity to reimagine the fundamental approach to things, right? It's like in couches, if you just make it slightly more green, okay, you can use better sourced timber or slightly better material. But if you really think about the design and make it modular, that's a fundamental rethink of what is the concept of a seating apparatus.
But real quick, before we wrap up, turning back to Terracycle. And so if I'm a consumer, if I'm just like, dude, how can I engage with Terracycle, or how can I take advantage of your services or Loop?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're interested in recycling something and there isn't a recycling solution near you, you would go to terracycle.com, and 20 countries you can do this, and you type in whatever the waste stream is that you're interested in. Let's say you want to recycle your cigarettes or you want to recycle your toothbrush, whatever it may be. From there, it'll either give you free services, which are typically funded by retailers or brands or cities. And if that free service is not available, we give you the option to pay for the service. That's usually if just the free service isn't there. And you can effectively recycle just about anything through our site, but only things that are not locally recyclable, because the real answer is, don't buy stuff is the real answer. And if you buy stuff, without packaging, or buy things that are recyclable. But if you fail on that, and many things will force that, then, come to us and check it out. Today in the time of COVID, we are seeing huge spikes in like recycling plastic gloves, face masks, things like that. So that's one way you can interact with us. And then if you're interested in going one step deeper, you can go to Loop. On the US, the website would be loopstore.com. You can see a huge ecosystem of reusable product. And you don't have to care about the environment to like Loop, because it's the most badass way to package these famous products you have ever seen. And then our big challenge on reuse is how do we make it as convenient as throwing something away? And that's the type of model we try to create on Loop, is when you're done with it, you don't wash it, you don't sort it, you don't do anything, you throw it in a bin. It just happens to be a reuse bin. And instead of ending up in a landfill or even a recycling center, it ends up in a cleaning facility.
Well, as convenient, that's one side of the coin, and cheap. And that's been my beef with product. I get challenged all the time by investors, by, who knows, consumers, of course. Why are Sactionals so expensive, as an example? And there's certainly more expensive couches. They're not like luxury per se, but they're not cheap. What I've finally come to on that, like in the bigger picture of things, should the stuff that we own be so cheap?
We swim in stuff, and I'm hoping there's a change here, because you nailed the fundamental problem of the environment is cheap stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you go back just before the 50s, garbage didn't really exist. We cobbled our shoes. Who cobbles shoes? We mended our clothes. Who does that? Oh my God, our furniture was supposed to last, generation to generation. And that idea of craftsmanship and timeless design and durability were incredibly prized. And the opposite was laughed at. And what's happened is everything has gone to be, how do you make it as cheap as possible? And that then actually forces us to buy more stuff. And it's this horrible hamster wheel that also destroys the environment all at the very same time. And I think the biggest message I would say to anyone out there, vote with your money for the future you want. Yeah. Because your company, my company, we are here to serve what people want. And what we buy is a reflection of our desires. And it's the most active vote we have. It's more important than the political vote. The vote for what you buy affects the world way more. And buy into the future you want. And in the world of anything, it should be buy things that are made to last, that you can give to your kids and their kids, that you won't, fall out of love with. People know in their hearts what those are. But you may get less stuff because that stuff will be more expensive.
The last example I want to show you is this really idea of how innovation plays and some of the rules we have to create. So this is Crest mouthwash in a reusable container. And one of the things I love seeing is how competitive organizations are looking at these designs and saying, how can we keep improving on each other, and using the competitive landscape in a very positive way. So this is Colgate's reaction to the Crest mouthwash container, and this is mouthwash through Colgate in Loop. And what I'm really sort of enjoying in this is it's a totally blue sky scenario where there's so many new innovations that can be done that were simply never possible before in disposable design, because disposable design has a very low budget context to play with.
Listen, you just articulated the ethos of design for life.
It pains me that I can't just replace the battery on my iPhone, and make no mistake, that's no accident. My favorite reaction to this is William McDonough's opening of his book, The Upcycle. We don't have a pollution problem. We have a design problem. If things were only designed better from the beginning with a super high bar, perhaps many of our problems that we've created for ourselves could be mitigated.
Amen. Apple, they're one of our clients, but so in full disclosure, they are, an icon of planned obsolescence. They in fact were sued and lost because of examples where they would make products that would fail when the next generation came out. Why does the bottom of the iPhone change all the time? And
don't even get me started, man.
No, I'm with you. But in the end, the most powerful actor in the room is the individual, right?
Yeah.
And that individual has the most powerful voice, but doesn't realize it. And that's the irony of the whole thing, is that we can change the world so fast in how we buy and also what we don't buy, because not buying is just as an active vote as the vote of buying. It's like politically, if we don't vote for a candidate, we are in a way voting for the other guy.
So individual agency on your choices you make consumption-wise is for real.
Anywhere you can affect, anywhere. In your position and my position, we get maybe a slightly bigger tool to wield, right? But everyone has agency and everyone can make very, very big changes. The problem is we do this all completely unconsciously. And then the little guy, like the individual consumer, says, oh, it's not me, it's the big companies. But the problem is the big companies are a reaction to their desires.
Right.
And so the individual has to wake up and take control because they've always had it. They just don't realize it. I wish everyone out there who's listening to this just to embed purpose into what they do, whether it's, in a company or for their own company or however they do it. It's an incredible thing. Only helps even move the bottom line forward.
I appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time. I'll just share this. You saw me reach for this book. I had to grab it. I don't know if you've ever come across this book. It's called Design for the Real World.
No, I'm going to check that out. That's cool.
Dude, you have to check this out. It's written in the 70s.
Okay.
I'm going to read you the first sentence in the preface.
Yeah.
And it says, there are professions more harmful than industrial design, but only very few of them.
This is the bottom line future we have to think about in sustainability. We can't make it sacrifice-based. We need to think about what is the future of how we want to live. And within that future, of course, concepts like the idea of waste shouldn't exist.